It all started with a quiet morning in a peaceful gated community. Mr. Henderson, a 72-year-old retired veteran, had lived there for over 2 decades. Every Sunday morning, without fail, he'd head out with his fishing rod and bait box to the small lake behind the HOA clubhouse. For him, fishing wasn't just a hobby. It was a tradition, a moment of peace, and a connection to simpler times. No one ever bothered him, until one day, a new face in the neighborhood decided that his peaceful ritual was somehow a problem. Enter Karen. Karen was the recently elected president of the HOA. She'd only been in charge for a few months, but she was already infamous for her obsessive enforcement of rules, both real and imagined. Her reputation, clipboards, surveillance cameras, and constant complaints. She had made it her mission to clean up the neighborhood, even if it meant disrupting long-standing routines like Mr. Henderson's Sunday fishing. It all started with a quiet morning in a peaceful gated community. Mr. Henderson, a 72-year-old retired veteran, had lived there for over 2 decades. Every Sunday morning, without fail, he'd head out with his fishing rod and bait box to the small lake behind the HOA clubhouse. For him, fishing wasn't just a hobby. This is HOA property. You're trespassing. Calmly and politely, Mr. Henderson explained that he'd been fishing there since before she ever moved into the neighborhood, but Karen didn't care. She was already dialing the police, confident that she was about to shut this down permanently. 3 minutes later, the police arrived. 2 officers stepped out and calmly approached both Karen and Mr. Henderson. She began ranting immediately, accusing the elderly man of violating HOA rules, being a disturbance, and refusing to comply with authority. Henderson, cool as ever, simply smiled, reached into his bag, and pulled out a folder. Inside, official documents, original neighborhood blueprints, and legal easement records that most people wouldn't even know existed. Turns out, that lake behind the clubhouse, it wasn't exclusive HOA property. It was part of a shared easement agreement that dated back over 30 years. Several homes, including Mr. Henderson's, had legal access rights to that area. In fact, the HOA had absolutely no authority to restrict access to it, and calling the police on someone exercising their legal rights. That was a very bad move. The officers reviewed the documents, called dispatch for confirmation, and eventually informed Karen that she was mistaken. Mr. Henderson was completely within his rights to fish there. She didn't just look embarrassed, she was fuming, but things were about to get a whole lot worse for her and the HOA. When the police got involved, it triggered a formal review of the easement agreement by the city. And that's when the real bombshell dropped. Years ago, the HOA had signed a $2 million easement agreement with the city that allowed limited use of the land around the lake in exchange for tax credits, maintenance benefits, and infrastructure funding. There was a catch. The HOA had to guarantee continued access to homeowners who were part of the original agreement. Karen, in her desperate attempt to assert power, had just broken that agreement by calling law enforcement to remove a legal user of that land. The city wasted no time. Within days, the easement agreement was reviewed, violations were confirmed, and the HOA was informed that they had defaulted on the terms. The result, that $2 million easement was voided. HOA was on the hook for higher taxes, lost funding, and the threat of lawsuits from angry residents whose property values just took a hit. Homeowners were furious. Emergency meetings were held. People who once ignored HOA politics were now showing up demanding answers. When the full story came out, how a petty power trip led to a massive financial loss, the backlash was instant. Karen was forced to resign from her position as HOA president. Some even suggested legal action against her personally for negligence. As for Mr. Henderson, he went right back to fishing the following Sunday's same spot, same time, just with a few more neighbors waving at him in support. This story is more than just about fishing. It's about the dangers of unchecked authority and the importance of knowing your rights. It's about how one person's ego and ignorance can create massive problems for an entire community. Karen thought she was enforcing the rules, but in reality, she exposed just how little she understood the responsibilities of her role. So the next time someone tries to flex power over you for something harmless, remember, Mr. Henderson, stay calm, know your rights, and keep your paperwork ready, because sometimes, karma works faster than anyone expects. If you've ever had to deal with an overreaching HOA or a power-hungry neighbor, share your story in the comments. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more real-life neighborhood drama where the Karens never seem to learn, but the rest of us get a front row seat.